Hello, friends. Welcome, friends. I think many of you who are watching this video might have seen this headline. So this headline is talking about cabinet approves spectrum refarming release of 328 megahertz of spectrum for the telecom industry, and this was published on 17th January 2025, and it actually became a very big headline. Every newspaper carried it, and there was a lot of euphoria around the government of India releasing a lot of spectrum. Now, friends, what I plan to do in this video is to provide you with insights as to what this decision is all about, whether it is going to make any material benefit from the point of view of unlocking real value for the mobile operators, and the consumers are going to get benefited proportionally or not. That's the whole purpose of this video. Now, since detailed information is not available from where this number of 328 megahertz is coming, and the total quantum of spectrum, I think about 687 megahertz, which is the total spectrum megahertz, if you look at here, if you read this article. So in net summary, this article is saying the cabinet has approved 687 megahertz of spectrum, out of which 328 megahertz of spectrum, which is right in the headline, is going to be released immediately for the usage of telecom industry. So that's the article. That is what the article talks about. Now, again, for the purpose of repeating myself, to make it very clear, I want to study and analyze this and do some speculation whether this particular announcement is going to really change the you can say the overview of the sector from the point of view of unlocking huge value, or additional effort is required, some additional things are going to be required which will give more value than what currently is being discussed and stated. So that's the whole purpose of this video. Now, in order to understand and in order to logically follow this topic, as I do always, I always put it down in pen, on pen, and I have written an article: spectrum refarming, is it enough to unlock value for true 5G and 6G? So what I'm planning to do in this video is to take you through my analysis step by step, so that the viewers and the listeners can understand this subject matter carefully. And if I am doing anything wrong, and if my analysis is incorrect, and if the things are in a different direction, I will like to use this platform for those informed and knowledgeable users to provide their comments in the comment section, so that we all get enlightened, because the details are not available. The breakup details are not available by the government. So let's start. First question: what is the likely breakdown of 678 megahertz of spectrum? Because this is the most important thing. Unless you know what is the likely breakdown of 687 megahertz of spectrum, how can you even make an analysis whether this kind of a release of spectrum is going to add value? Because spectrum is a very complex subject. Spectrum is going to be dependent upon which band, how the spectrum is released, what quantum is released, whether it is harmonized or not, whether it is adjacent or not. All these things matter. You can't just simply make any head and tail by just the quantum. That's where the industry, the media has gone wrong, because when they reported, and there is a lot of euphoria because that analysis has not been done. So that is what I'm planning to do in this article. So what I have done is, because of the past experience, the past discussion which was going on in the public domain, I am trying to speculate, and I believe my speculation most probably will be in the right direction. As you all know, before this announcement came, the discussion was anchored around 6 gigahertz band. Now, what is 6 gigahertz band? For those laymen who do not understand spectrum, the spectrum has been broken down into various bands, right? We start from 600 megahertz band and we go up to 3.5 gigahertz band. And in India today, there is one more band called millimeter wave, which is 26 gigahertz. So higher the band you go, more the frequency, as you go higher, the frequency increases, and then the coverage of the band shrinks, and then you have to put more towers in order to have a carpet to coverage. I think that sense, everybody will be aware of. Now, 6 gigahertz band is a much higher band, which currently has been deployed by the mobile operators, because 26 gigahertz band has not been deployed. Let me tell you this, that nobody is using this band because it's a much higher frequency. It is not possible to be deployed in the tower density that we have. We need to basically change the whole structure of our tower deployment. Means this, the strategy of deploying the current ground-based towers has to be changed to pole-based towers. So that's a different discussion. Don't want to get into that. Now 6 gigahertz falls in a ballpark range which is higher than the 3.5 gigahertz band, right? So you look at this diagram right in front of you. This is going to give you pictorial how 6 gigahertz band basically is laid out. So it starts from 5925 megahertz and it goes up to 7125 megahertz. So let me just zoom in a bit so that everybody can look at this picture carefully, because this is where the story is. 5925 megahertz to 7125 megahertz. Now you can break this band into three different pieces. What are the pieces? 5925 megahertz to 6425 megahertz, 6425 megahertz to 7025 megahertz, 7025 megahertz to 7125 megahertz. So you have got three different pieces. The first piece is 500 megahertz worth. The second piece is 600 megahertz worth, and the third piece is 100 megahertz. Now, I believe the discussion that has happened or the announcement that has happened is this particular block, 600 megahertz block. Not the 100 megahertz block, not the 500 megahertz block. And why I am making this speculation? Let me tell you this. Because this whole block of spectrum is 1200 megahertz band. Now, there are no IMT equipment in the 500 megahertz block because nobody is doing IMT in the 500 megahertz block. Every IMT, every discussion that is happening all around the globe is within this particular block of spectrum, which is 600 plus 100 megahertz. Now, when this discussion happen, these discussions happen at the ITU level for international harmonization. Now, when ITU discusses these complex issues like spectrum, it is broken down into three regions. So we have got region 1, which is Europe. Region 2 is basically the US and other countries like Japan, Korea and others, right? And then region 3 is basically India, right? Now, if you look at this, the history of this band is that for region 2, this full 1200 megahertz band has been de-licensed, means it is not part of the IMT assignment, okay? As far as region 1 is concerned, which is Europe, this particular block of spectrum, 600 megahertz, is being talked about for IMT, right? And for the 100 megahertz block in ITU, all the three regions, region 1, region 2, region 3, has zeroed on to this particular block of spectrum for IMT. So to summarize, 500 megahertz, there is no deployment, there is no equipment worldwide. So there is no point in focusing on this particular block of spectrum. So you can only focus on 600 and 100. Now 100, there is no discussion, no confusion. Everybody is aligned. All the three regions are aligned. So 100 megahertz is gone. So we are left with only 600 megahertz, where there is confusion because India was not part of the WRC studies, right? Because this was basically part of the WRC. India was not part of it. And there were a lot of, satellite deployment, other deployment, etc. So you need to work on this particular spectrum to release this spectrum, because mobile operators feel that this spectrum is pretty important from the point of view of utilization for the point of view of leveraging future technologies like 5G and 6G. 5G is already there, but advanced version of 5G and 6G will get deployed in this particular block of spectrum. So they were very much in favor of opening this band because 100 megahertz would not have been sufficient. So you understand now, this is the discourse, right, as far as discussion is concerned. So my speculation that out of this 687 megahertz of spectrum, right, if you look here, 687 megahertz spectrum, which has been discussed in the press, which minister might have announced, I am presuming that 600 megahertz is part of this discussion. Okay, you are with me? Maybe I'm wrong, but if there is any comment, anybody is knowledgeable, please let me know. That is a more plausible way of logical way of looking at it, right? Now, if this 600 megahertz is part of the discussion, means 100 megahertz is already available there. So when in future, when the spectrum is released, this 100 megahertz might get released. I am not aware, right? I really don't know whether there are any satellite deployments here or not. Now the main point is, this part I have already explained, the breakdown plot. You can read in my article. Now the main point is, before we go for the remaining 87 megahertz spectrum, let me just first resolve the 6 gigahertz part. Then we will go for the remaining 87, means 600 plus 87 is 687. We are only talking about 600 years. Now, why only 300 megahertz has been released? There are 600 megahertz of spectrum. Because if you look at the minister, I believe that out of this 600, he is talking about releasing 300 megahertz, and the rest 67 megahertz is coming from somewhere else. Okay. Now, why is only 300 megahertz has been released? Anybody would have asked this question. I believe that only 300 megahertz has been released because this particular block of spectrum is highly utilized by satellite services. Now, those who do not understand spectrum, let me tell you that coexistence with satellite is possible. But here is the problem. Let me explain the problem in very clear terms, and for that I am going to use an arrow. Let's say if there is a satellite hanging in the sky and it is transmitting on the ground below, right? Now here the satellite which is on the sky is transmitting towards a ground station which is receiving. Do you understand now? Satellite is on the top and it is transmitting to a ground station which is receiving. Now when the ground station is receiving mode, what happens is that the signal will be all dispersed all over the place in this particular block of spectrum. Now, if you are going to operate a mobile network in this block of spectrum, then this mobile network will be in a TDD form, means time division duplex, means it will transmit as well as receive, means in the same block of spectrum, a base station will transmit and the mobile will transmit back to the base station. So you will find that there are a lot of base stations which are located in this particular block of spectrum, including mobile. Now, since for the satellite, this particular block of spectrum is only downlink, means only receiving, then it is likely that the satellite's RF signal will interfere with the base stations which are located on ground, as well as the mobiles which are located on ground, because the base stations and mobiles are in both TX and receive mode. So when a base station is in receive mode, then what happens is that if there is a base station here which is in receive mode, and there is a satellite terminal which is also in receive mode, and the satellite is transmitting from the sky towards the base station, then there is a likelihood that there will be interference with the base station, because signal will not be able to zero on to the satellite receiver only. It is going to spread out within the geography, so there will be interference. So what might have happened is that within the 600 megahertz spectrum, it is likely that they are able to unlock only 300 megahertz of spectrum and made it interference free, and the rest of the spectrum might still be under the usage by defense services, and they will release it later, or satellite services which they will release it later. So that's the reason. So you understand that. Now coming back to the remaining 87 megahertz of spectrum. My speculation is that since it is all new bands, the remaining 87 megahertz spectrum likely is in two different bands, 2.5 gigahertz band and the L band. L band is basically a band which is a TDD band, is a lower frequency spectrum. Now, people may not be aware of L band, let me tell you, because I had got a lot of experience working in this area for last 20 years, and I do understand where the situation is. What happened was, when the 3G spectrum technology was released, then it is in the 2.1 gigahertz band. Now you know that the 2.1 gigahertz band is sliced into blocks of 5 megahertz only. So it became very insufficient and broadband speeds were not possible. Now, since the data transmission in case of wireless is always asymmetric. What does it asymmetric? It means that the downlink is thicker compared to the uplink. So since you have got a FDD band where 5 megahertz of spectrum is having both uplink and downlink, right, of equal size, so it would have been better to enhance the uplink size of the downlink spectrum to much higher quantum compared to the uplink spectrum. So the downlink spectrum was 5 megahertz. So from the L band, whatever spectrum in the L band was that was a TDD spectrum. So what you can do, you can sandwich a portion of this spectrum with the downlink spectrum in the 2.1 gigahertz band to enhance the downlink from 5 megahertz to something more, let's say 15 megahertz. So the uplink still says 5 megahertz. So that way the spectrum becomes much more empowering and you can do more downloads and compared to uploads. And that was the purpose of L band. So this particular band was being discussed from the long being, but now it has become a little irrelevant, given that we have got a lot of spectrum in the high frequency band, in the 3.5 gigahertz band, which is TDD, and there are a lot of FDD spectrum which are spread around all the mid spectrum band in the 1800 megahertz, 2100 megahertz. All these bands are available. So I don't think this is going to be a big game changer, except for one simple, I would say, a very important deployment strategy, which is satellite spectrum deployment strategy. When I say satellite, let me make you understand. See, satellite spectrum, when you call direct to mobile, means satellite transmitting direct to mobile, that cannot happen in high frequency band. It is not possible. You can't transmit in high frequency like 10 gigahertz band or 12 gigahertz band, 26 gigahertz band. It is not possible. It is simply not going to work. You need to transmit at a low frequency spectrum band, right? In order to communicate directly into those mobile handsets from satellite. So you need to look for a spectrum band which is at a lower frequency band. So this band can become a viable band for that particular type of operation. So though the uplink has to be from somewhere else, it can become a downlink, there's still uplink. So that's the only, and maybe some supplementary downlink which you can do, but it is not of much relevance. Then we come on the remaining 20 megahertz, which I believe is the 2.5 gigahertz band. And if I show you the 2.5 gigahertz band spectrum map, you will find that this block of spectrum is divided into two pieces. You have got, there is a block here and there is a block here, each of 20 megahertz of size. So what might have happened is that one of the blocks might have got expanded by another 20 megahertz. Reason why is that both Bharti as well as for Reliance Jio has got 40 megahertz of spectrum in the 2300 megahertz spectrum band. If you look at the 2300 megahertz spectrum, you see that Reliance Jio has got 40 and Bharti has 40 megahertz in many circles, except for few circles. So if Vodafone is operating in the 2500 megahertz band, along with BSNL, you see these are all orange is BSNL, and BSNL can be moved either up and down. Vodafone needs to have a contiguous spectrum of 20 megahertz in order to remain at par with Bharti and Reliance Jio. So for empowering that, it is important to release 20 megahertz in this particular spectrum band. And this band, by the way, has got a lot of controversy. This is a DEWA spectrum. Mostly it is free, by the way, but because of the DEWA's controversy, this whole block of spectrum has got locked and it has become completely useless. So some value can be unlocked, and if you are able to release another 20 megahertz of spectrum here, so you will be able to create a block of 40 megahertz for Vodafone Idea, which is blue. So that's about the math, right? So I have already told you why has only 300 megahertz of spectrum has been released in 600 megahertz. That part has been created, and will the release of 328 megahertz band. Now, how did 320 has happened? I really don't know. Maybe 8 megahertz from where it is coming, I really don't know. But more or less the equation will match. But the point here is that will this 6 gigahertz spectrum release, which is mostly 300 megahertz out of the 600 megahertz which you have discussed, will it unlock any value for the mobile industry? If you ask me, it is not much. Why it is not much? It's very simple. If you look at the 6 gigahertz band, we have got how much? 700 megahertz spectrum, right? Out of which what you're doing, you're releasing only 300 megahertz spectrum. How many operators we have? We have got 4 operators. Each operator will get less than 100 megahertz. Maximum 100 megahertz because you have to share some with BSNL and VI also. How much you have in the 3.5 gigahertz spectrum band? So if I go to 3.5 gigahertz spectrum band, you will find that each operator has at least 100 megahertz and Reliance has got in some circle 130 megahertz. So if you have already 3.5 gigahertz band, 100 megahertz, and then you go in a band which is much higher with a footprint which does not match with the 3.5 gigahertz spectrum. So if you look at this particular band, the 6 gigahertz band, you will find that it is much higher and you require 4 times the number of tower density. You don't have the carpet to carpet coverage as far as 3.5 is concerned. And then there will be issue of carrier aggregation and other between two bands. What is the point in releasing spectrum in 6 gigahertz band when you can expand the current spectrum band? Like if you see here, this goes up to 3670, right? From 3300 to 3670 means 370 megahertz. So if you go in this direction and release another 200 or 300 megahertz of spectrum, if you go up to 4000 megahertz, imagine the kind of value that it will be able to unlock. Now you may say that is it practically possible to release additional spectrum here? What are the challenges? The challenges the main challenges was the cable operators who are operating in the cables which have some kind of interference which is not good, which can be managed with new technology. The main issue was altimeters. I don't know whether you are aware of that. The aviation ministry has got a lot of problems with 5G near the airports. Because what happened was the altimeters function between 4200 to 4400. Now, because of the poor design or filter design of the altimeter, if you are operating in this area, which is nearby, right, which is close to the 4200 megahertz range, then what happens? There will be spillover of RF frequencies into the altimeter portion of the aircraft navigational system. So that was causing interference. Now, this was a point of controversy for a long period of time. Now, US has been able to resolve it. Now, all aircrafts are flying into US and they have deployed up to 4000 megahertz, this C band. Now, if they can do it, why India cannot do it? Now, if you are able to unlock, another, quantum around 300 megahertz band, right, in the 3.5 gigahertz band, right, which is currently only 30 megahertz, and you can basically do another 370 megahertz kind of value that you will be able to unlock, rather than focusing on 6 gigahertz band, which is actually going to be a fragmented deployment of smaller chunk size, and then there will be carrier aggregation issues and there will be a lot of problems. So let's focus on the 3.5 gigahertz band, where there is probably no discussion happening right now. Maybe there will be in future, I don't know, which will unlock disproportionate amount of value compared to what the current announcement is, which I think is the situation. So this I have already explained. You can read my article. Now there is one more part which is missing, which is sub-gigahertz spectrum. Now, sub-gigahertz spectrum is most important part of the discussion in India because of tower density. You cannot increase the tower density in India to the extent that you already have. If you could, then 26 gigahertz band would not have been gone in oblivion. There is no discussion happening in the 26 gigahertz band because there will be a new tower strategy which you will have to unlock, you have to design in order to deploy that particular spectrum. So it is better to focus on spectrum band of 600, 700, 900 and 800 megahertz spectrum. So in 700, the mobile operators have been locked. So let me show you what the band structure of 700 megahertz band is. So 700 megahertz band, if you see here is Reliance Jio, here is Railways, this will become Railways, and this is going to become, this is BSNL, right? So here is defense sitting, government sitting here. Now, if this block of spectrum can be moved out, then, you will be able to unlock value for Reliance Jio for another 20 megahertz of spectrum. So then Reliance Jio will be able to fully monetize 5G because 10 megahertz is neither here nor there. So that is one thing you should do. Second thing is that 600 megahertz band is lying completely free. You should put that in auction. You should release these blocks of spectrum. This is going to basically enable those, slicing application at the UE level, which currently is not possible because all 5G deployment is the higher frequency band cannot penetrate indoor, and in indoor, if you go indoor, you cannot basically supplement those with Wi-Fi because Wi-Fi is a technology which does not have any synergies with the 5G frame. For you to unlock the full value of 5G, you need the 5G radio waves to travel natively indoors, which is only possible in the low frequency spectrum band. You understand now? So, just to cut the whole story short, very simple conclusion. This 687 megahertz spectrum refarming is not going to do much value. So, this is just a noise in the press. I don't think this much value is going to happen. The value can be unlocked, significant value can be unlocked if we focus on releasing additional spectrum in 3.5 gigahertz band. Then what happened? The operators who have already made the deployment, their tower footprints are already set. There is no need to put additional tower. They can expand their existing block of spectrum from 100 megahertz to 200 megahertz plus. So you can basically expand the capacity of your FWA, and even the mobiles will get benefited. Then focus on the sub-gigahertz spectrum band. There is no discussion, nothing happening on the sub-gigahertz spectrum. Pricing has to be reduced. Then only true value for the mobile operators can be unlocked, and which can be leveraged by the consumers. Otherwise, no technology, whether it's 5G, 6G, 7G, 8G, 9G, 10G, you can have any meaningful value because physics is not going to change. Whatever technology you bring in, the radio waves are going to travel in a similar way it used to travel millions of years back, unless the universal structure, the universe is changed, the universal constant is changed, the radio physics gets changed. Okay, friends. So that's all, friends. Thank you for your time. I hope that you understood this discussion, and I hope that you like this video, and let me know in the comment section what you feel about this, and I'll come back with a new video next time. Thank you very much.